So since the people are coming in, I think we'd better get started. So welcome everyone, and APAMEI, the monthly forum, and I'm the coordinator of this Zoom session. So we're gonna get started. So I'm introducing our president from Miranda. Do the formal welcome to all of you.
Okay, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone, wherever you may be. Welcome to another session of our Asia Pacific Association Methodist-related Educational Institutions Monthly Forum. And we are so happy to have you with us to discuss and to reflect on one thing that has been our prayer for the past months or years as we see the world really in conflict and even going to war. So at this point, I would like to thank also our speaker who will be introduced later to you for sharing her time with us today. And before we start, I cannot see Bishop Naki. Shall we bow down our heads and pray? Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we praise and thank you for another opportunity for us to gather and reflect on your word. We praise and thank you for reminding us that each and everyone in this Zoom room has the responsibility to live in peace, has the prayer to live in peace. May your spirit be with us as we reflect on the significance of peace in our lives and in our world today. This we pray in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. So at this point, may I call on Dr. Paul Shu to introduce our.
Yes, thank you very much. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to our session. We have been having a series called Making Peace Peacefully. And we have had a session, I think, for 4 months now since the summer on this theme of making peace peacefully. This month, our forum is hosted by Aoyama Gakuin University in Tokyo. I am Vice Chancellor at Aoyama Gakuin, and I am faculty in the College of Literature. It's a great pleasure to welcome all of you to this APAMEI forum, and we are delighted to be able to partner with the Asia Rural Institute in Tochigi, Japan. It's in a rural area, not far from Tokyo, but in a very rural location. And the school has a very special mission of training leaders from developing countries around Asia. In Japanese, the school is called Asia Gakuin. It's like Asia School, and the school really is a development center for leaders who will go to serve rural communities in developing countries in Asia. And they have students coming there for the programs every single year. And we are delighted that our speaker this morning is the director of the Asia Rural Institute. I will put up on the screen here just a moment. Let me share the screen so you can see our speaker. Okay, I think you can see it now. Our speaker today is the director of Asia Rural Institute, Tomoko Arakawa. Mrs. Arakawa has been with Asia Rural Institute for a number of years. She has served there in numerous positions, including the curriculum director and the general manager and the associate director. And about 7 years ago, she became the head of the school. Now, Asia Rural Institute is a community-based school here in Japan that provides a transformative learning experience that helps rural leaders from developing countries to create a more sustainable way of life for their community. And the Asia Rural Institute fosters peace by empowering some of the most marginalized communities on earth so that they can share and enjoy the wealth of food, land, and community. It is my great pleasure to welcome Mrs. Arakawa here today to speak about ARI and her work there and how it connects with making peace peacefully. So, Arakawa sensei, yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I can see many of you attending this forum. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you for this opportunity. I'm very glad to be here to introduce ARI and then how our activity at ARI relates to the peace building. So yeah, thank you very much for having me. ARI is going to celebrate its 50th anniversary next year. So it's established in 1973, so very long time. We are doing our activity here in Tochigi Prefecture. So yeah, let's get started. And then let me share the screen. So I put the title, Food, Peace, and Reconciliation, that we may live together peacefully. So our school, as Paul said, that a very unique school, and then food is at the center of our school. So I don't know how many school has food at the center of its activities. So in that sense, you can see how unique it is. So food has been essential for all human beings, not only for humans, but also for all creatures. Eating is indispensable. I think you understand that and you agree with it. There's no change in this fact from the beginning of our history until now. However, the meaning of food and the purpose of growing food has been changed over the years. Farmers used to grow food primarily for feeding their families and their local communities and sell the surplus. But now many farmers grow crops to sell to the market so that they can buy food for their families. The main purpose is to get profit. So they try to maximize their farming activities by increasing the size of land and putting a lot of chemical inputs. And their farming, in this situation, food is transformed from part of peaceful coexistence in human life to becoming an element of competition, even of a conflict that may lead to violence. So at the beginning of my speech, I'd like you to remember that food has two functions in our societies. It can be used as a tool for both violence and peace. So at ARI, we promote peace and reconciliation through food justice. So Asian Rural Institute is located on 15 acres of farmland, about 6 hectares of farmland in Tochigi Prefecture, about 200 miles north of Tokyo. The campus includes a community hall, like a classroom, dining hall, kitchen, library, etc., office building, living compound, both men's and women's dormitory, organic farms, livestock shed, and forest. We invite about 30 participants each year, rural leaders from so-called developing countries and areas in the world to live and work in a community for 9 months from April to December to better equip them to tackle numerous issues related to their lives back home, such as poverty and food insecurity, education, health, human rights, climate justice and climate action. The ARI community refers to everyone on campus, participants, they are trainees, and staff, volunteers, and even visitors. We form a community every year. This is a picture of a rice transplanting this year in June. To help these rural leaders become more practical and effective leaders, in improving the lives of the people and the peace in their home countries, this 9 months intensive training focusing on 3 areas. Oh, sorry, 3 areas: urban leadership, sustainable agriculture, and community building. So participants live in a communal setting on campus where they work, learn, and then fellowship together, grow, and cook their own food together. In addition, there are opportunity to visit different sites in Japan to see social and agricultural issues to the development of society, and they meet local development and the social movement leaders. After the end of the training, these rural leaders go back to their home communities to apply what they learned. So I'd like to show a very short video, 6 minutes video to introduce ARI. Yeah, so please watch first. Oh, sorry.
Will our children be able to eat safe food? Who decides what farmers can grow? What can we do to make our communities more resilient? Nowhere else are global changes more deeply felt than in the rural areas of our world. These areas are very vulnerable to disruptive effects of exploitive technologies and economic forces. But we all depend on food producers and a healthy environment. Small farming villages are really the backbone of society. That's why it's so important to develop leaders on the ground.
How does it reproduce? Reproduction. How many seeds it will produce in a year? So the top
At the Asian Rural Institute in Japan, we train such leaders, people with a passion to serve others, who will transform their communities in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. They come from NGOs, churches, unions, and other local organizations. If rural leaders share their knowledge with one another, they can find ways to gain greater control over how they want to live. Here at ARI, dedicated leaders can grow in skills and knowledge. In our training program, they become independent learners, practicing team building and time management. Inspired discussions about the meaning of wealth and development, our environment, and social justice will form the basis for their work back home.
Economy they want to develop. But today we can see all over the world.
ARI is a unique school. We live and learn together as a community. We grow our own food through organic farming. All members work hard to keep the living soil free from pollution. The feed for our animals is made from local resources. We practice every step of our food life, from sowing, nurturing, and harvesting plants, to taking care of livestock, to cooking and preserving food. Producing food used to be at the core of human society. how food is made and distributed concerns all of us. We believe that human-scale agriculture in communities is the key to rural empowerment. Development that leaves people behind and puts profit before sustainability is bound to fail. We want leaders to develop an attitude of sharing life with those people who are most vulnerable and discriminated against. In this way, we nurture servant leaders and, in time, leaders of peace. Building a genuine community together with people from different cultures and religions challenges us to listen deeply. We go through an intentional process of finding new images of ourselves, of leadership, of food, and of life. This is often painful, but guided by our motto, that we may live together, we learn how to respect each other. A deep personal renewal takes place, moving us to spark renewal in our home communities. Thanks to the support of generous donors and partners from around the world, more than 1,000 leaders from over 50 countries have received training from ARI, and many more visitors and volunteers have been touched by our mission. People who come to ARI find a new appreciation for the word rural. For us, it doesn't mean backwards or dirty. Rural people with deep roots in the land teach us a simple, more economic way of life. We want to restore rural life with all of its beauty and dignity.
Okay. So I'd like to talk about why is ARI calling for peace and reconciliation now? Since its establishment in 1973, ARI has graduated nearly 1,400 rural leaders from 61 countries. And many graduates communities are in areas of war, conflicts, discrimination, and other forms of injustice are rampant. So they are naturally engaged in the heavy physical, mental, and emotional demands for peace building. That is number one. There are three main characteristics of ARI that make it rich as a learning environment. And one is ARI Foundation and Hope for Reconciliation. Number two, background of participants. And number three, the ARI motto that we may live together as both a means and an end for life at ARI. So first, ARI Foundation and Hope for Reconciliation. Our foundation is based on hope for reconciliation with other Asian countries and their people. In the ARI's 40th anniversary booklet says, at its inaugural assembly held in Kuala Lumpur 1959, the East Asia Christian Council, EACC, unanimously adopted a resolution, among others, which stated that education and training of rural pastors was an urgent task in contributing to post-war rehabilitation of Asian countries, and urged the Japanese churches to carry out the mission. After that, EACC formally requested the United Church of Christ in Japan to realize the contents of the resolution. In response to these requests, in April 1960, the following year, the Southeast Asian Christian Rural Leaders Training Course, SEAC, was newly established on the campus of the Theological Seminary for Rural Mission, Machida City in Tokyo. And this Southeast Asian Christian Rural Leaders Training Course, SEAC, is the mother body of ARI. In 1973, the course was terminated in the seminary due to the economical difficulties, but was born anew at Asian Rural Institute as Asian Rural Institute in a different location with clearer mission. So the 40th anniversary booklet says, establishing the course within a theological seminary was meant to signify the confession of war responsibility by the Japanese churches in light of their support toward the military government's actions during World War II and their atonement for such sins committed. Being born from the violence of war to work for peace and reconciliation, ARI still today feels the challenge of this history. Furthermore, so many of the participants who have come to ARI were from countries invaded and occupied by Japan. So next is a background of ARI participants. This is the second characteristics of ARI that make it rich as a learning environment. As I mentioned, many of the participants come from countries in conflict situations that need healing and reconciliation. Countries such as East Timor, Sri Lanka, Cameroon, DR Congo, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Tanzania. Some come from specific peoples group marginalized in their own countries, such as the Karen, Shan, Chin, and Kachin in Myanmar, tribal peoples in the Philippines and southern India, as well as those living in Nagaland and Manipur in northeast India. The root and the kinds of conflicts vary. East Timor won its independence in 2002, only 20 years ago, after a horrific war with Indonesia. In Cameroon, West Africa, tension between English-speaking regions demanding independence and the Francophone security force has been escalating. In 2018, we have two participants for the first time from Eritrea, Africa, a country with a single-party state with no elections since independence in 1991, landmines in rural areas, compulsory military service, and a poor human rights record. Terrorist groups continue to destabilize areas of the world, especially in Africa and Asia. During the pandemic, 2021 and 2022, we accepted for the first time the participants from Guinea and in Ethiopia who fled to Japan due to political insecurity in their countries and became asylum seekers. So next is motto. The third characteristic is our motto, that we may live together. And the setup where it is both a means and an end for the life at ARI. We all come to ARI to live together so that we may live together. ARI is not a seminar, not a camp, not an academic institution, and not a short experience. Hence, a single motto that we may live together guides the 9 months of very different people living together. Conflicts, disputes, misunderstandings, anger, hard feelings are all part of everyday life in the ARI community. It seems that it was assumed from the beginning that these things occur in ARI. This unique setting that requires great effort to live in peace and harmony help us to build skills for living in peace, no matter what we may face in a community. Now, I would like to depict some contributing elements for reconciliation and peace building in everyday life in ARI. The biggest characteristics of ARI is that all community members of ARI, as you can see in this picture, who are participants, volunteers, working visitors, and staff members who live, study, and work on campus, are all producing crops, taking care of livestock, taking turns cooking with bounty from our harvest, sharing meals in Koinonia Dining Hall as members of this one community. We call these activities food life activities. This food life seems to be very effective to transform its community to be persons who can work for reconciliation and peace. Food life is a special word coined at ARI to express the reality that food and life cannot be separated. Both depends on each other. Food life is a central concept and activity in ARI that involves producing, processing, cooking, eating, and sharing food with others. The founder of ARI, Reverend Takami, said, "Food is brought forth through the joint work of nature, which is a gift of God and humans who desire to sustain life with what they have received." Seeing and valuing food as a crystallization of nature and humans, food life at ARI has profound meaning to all of us. Let me quote some more words of Reverend Takami. Working on the farm and preparing food in the kitchen are both important part of food life. When we eat, when we strive to process a deep sense of awareness so that we can taste the hope and the warmth of those whose sweat and hard work went into making our food. Every time we eat, we taste the grace of God and the hearts of people. This is the kind of meal taking that we should practice. The community members of ARI participate in an entire crop cycle in producing 90%. I think nowadays it's more than 90% of our daily food. This figure, the agricultural production for self-consumption and sales in 2018, it shows only the main crops and then the meat. You may guess how much time and efforts we are spending in producing food daily and how vast meaning it may gives to us. So we grow rice. That year we have the very big amount harvest of rice, almost 10 tons. Other main crops like potatoes and sweet potatoes, carrot, of course, wheat, soybean, and then we have pig, and we have chickens, we have goat, and then also fish. We are decreasing now, but we don't need to buy food from outside. We try to be self-sufficient as much as possible. In the beginning of 2018, we changed the name of the section that oversees preparing and serving meals from meal service to feast. That stands for Food, Education, and Sustainable Table. So no more, we don't call meal service section anymore. We call feast section. That new name effectively encourages all the community members who are involved in meal preparation to have a much deeper understanding of the relationship between food, justice, security, health, and in the environment. So this is from our training handbook. Food life is a vital activity for human beings to maintain their lives, and it connects God, the earth, and human beings, working as medium for reconciliation and peace building. Food life also gives all the community members spiritual experience of connecting and reconnecting with each other, even amidst the conflicts and misunderstandings of everyday life. Yeah. So Zachibo Lako, who is the former feast section coordinator in ARI, said, I believe that when people with vastly different backgrounds of class, faith, and food culture come together in the Koinonia dining hall. This is a Koinonia dining hall, as you see in the PowerPoint. When they come together in Koinonia dining hall from their various works, sit side by side with one another, chatting, laughing, scooping out food from the same bowls, it is not only a joy to see, but the start of building peace. We witness and experience that participants in the daily growing, harvesting, cooking, eating, and sharing food, each of these food life activities gives us the opportunity to face each other, serve each other, appreciate each other, forgive each other, and reconcile with each other, even without words. This kind of daily life reminds me of one Bible passage. Now come and have some breakfast. In the Bible, John chapter 21, verses 12, Jesus said to Peter, when he appeared the third time after his death on the cross. When Jesus was taken to the cross, Peter refused Jesus 3 times and betrayed him. But after Jesus was resurrected and appeared in front of the disciples, Jesus kindled a fire, grilled fish over it, and prepared bread for them. Now come and have some breakfast. This is a word of invitation to restore a relationship and bring reconciliation. Food has the power to make peace and reconcile people. In ARI, we participate in the whole cycle of food production and consumption. This gives the community a sense of wholeness. The cycle of preparing soil, growing seed, caring, harvesting, eating, sharing, and recycling clearly show us where we are from, how we are sustained, and where we will end. This gives us a sense of security and a meaningful existence on the earth. This mural of Sri Lankan rural women enjoying harvesting of rice adorns the main entrance of Koinonia, the main meeting building on the campus that holds our dining hall, classroom, etc. This mural was drawn by a Sri Lankan painter named Nalini Jayasuriya in 1977 in our campus in ARI. Although damaged with cracks by the 2011 earthquake happened in Japan that devastated most of our campus, the shining rice sheets, which portray waiting for the harvest, continue to be a symbol of joy and happiness. This image, with women at the center of this joyful occasion, shows us how the lowest people in the society can work and happily share the joy of food. This must be an ideal rural society for all of us. Reverend Takami refers to this as social justice. He says social justice, ARI is to achieve social justice now and for the future. Social justice is a state where everybody on this earth, without a single exception, can sit at the rich dining table, sharing a joy of sharing. At ARI, we practice organic farming. This farming method may also be an act of reconciliation with God, nature, and other people. In our organic farming, we follow the law of nature as much as possible. In Japanese, organic farming is written like this. It's called Yuki Nogyo. Yuki means life existing. Nogyo means farming. So yukinogyo means farming where life exists. In Genesis chapter 1 to 3, God gave humans a role and a responsibility to work the ground. A Japanese theologian, Dr. Takayanagi, a former principal of theological seminary for rural mission, said that the working the ground is more accurately serving the land. Serving the land. If we look at the original Hebrew, he cites ground as situated between God and humans are transformed to servants of God in the real sense by serving and protecting the ground. From this point of view, a farming method that we as human beings should take is clear to me. We human beings are given the responsibility and the role to protect nature and serve the soil. We, however, have neglected the responsibility and continue to destroy nature and the soil. Therefore, we need to repent and ask forgiveness from God. In that sense, our ARI methods of organic farming may be considered as an action of reconciliation with God. Here we love the ground, take care of it, nurture it, and protect it, following the law of nature. That is exactly serving the ground. We try to restore the ground that was once broken by humans into the ground where life exists. In this way, we may be able to reconcile with God. Mr. Osamu Arakawa, ARI Farm Manager, Associate Director, said, "We can produce enough food sustainably only when we trust that God created an order in nature and we respect it. If farmers force land to produce food, ignoring the order, it will destroy the ecosystem and pest and disease outbreak. Human must not force land to yield food." This statue is standing in front of the United Nations building in New York. The sword symbolizes violence and war. The plowshare symbolizes peace and is a tool for farming. This is based on the following passage in the Old Testament. "And he will judge between the nations and will mediate for many people. And they will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nations will not lift up the sword against nation, and never again will they learn war." As it's shown in this Bible passage, sustainable farming and peace building go together. We plow every day in ARI. That means we engage concretely in peace building in daily life. In 2003, as a part of United Nations-led disarmament program of Afghanistan civil soldiers, about 6 Afghanistan tribal chiefs visited ARI. We took them around the campus, showing how our training, based on the life of sharing and practicing organic farming, can transform people to peacemakers. We also took them to the Nass Canal in our town, where local rural leaders devoted their lives to make a canal to turn the waterless area into the green land about 140 years ago. Farming in community and cooperatively give lives and hope to people, and thus become the base for building peace. Lastly, I would like to talk about our graduates. Graduates of ARI returns to their home communities and work for the communities. Their works are varied, but much of the activities are contributing to bring peace and reconciliation through their different activities of food life. We refer to these actions of peace building as peace from the soil. For example, this pastor, this woman at front here, Reverend Kalin Toshan in Manipur, India, is bringing conflict tribes to one table by promoting food security, like teaching organic farming techniques, and promoting women's and children's rights. Father Josemari Kizito in Uganda is managing a training center in a refugee camp equipped with the farms and then various vocation trainings for refugees coming from neighboring countries. Ms. Noli Mia, as a director of Women's Department of a church organization of a minor tribe in Myanmar, is directing numerous programs to improve livelihood and the dignity of farmers, women, and girls. Higoshi Honbin is now working in West Papua, where people need more advanced skills for food production. These are just a few examples, but Food Life is situated at the philosophical and practical base in much of the activities of the graduates of ARI. Restoring dignity and fairness among vulnerable people by securing food, more importantly, safe food grown sustainably would bring peace in the community. So, thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. So I appreciate your listening. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for your presentation. So interesting. It makes me want to go to ARI again.
Welcome.
Yes,
Welcome.
I have been there many times in the past, not recently, but seeing the photos and everything makes me want to go visit. And again, I'm sure that many of our participants today, students and faculty from our schools, are so amazed and impressed with the facilities. It's definitely something that you should go visit when you come to Japan.
Yes, please.
Today, Mrs. Arakawa is speaking from the Asia Rural Institute, of course, a very rural location. And I should add, just so everyone knows the context, we have a typhoon in Japan right now. So it's raining in Tokyo and it's raining out at ARI. In fact, it was even flooding this morning. She said that this morning they had flood waters that was flooding one of the dorms, and all of the staff, including herself, had to go out this morning with shovels and to clear trenches and dig trenches so to help the water go away from the dorm. And everyone was wet and dirty from working outdoors. So even today, when we have this kind of event and she's giving this wonderful presentation, please remember that she's also out on the farm at ARI, working very hard in nature as well. So thank you very much. It's good for us to remember that context as we think about your presentation and this topic. So I'd like to open up for questions now. I would like to invite all of our participants, especially our students and faculty, to please write questions in the chat. So if you have a question you would like to ask, please write the question or a comment into the chat. And then I will help to moderate the discussion. If it's okay, I would like to start with a question myself. Some of our participants may not be aware of the school and the relationship of how close that is to the Great East Japan earthquake in 2013 and the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Can you put up the slide that shows the map?
Sure, or I can share the other slides.
Yeah, if you have something.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting if you could tell us a little bit about how ARI was affected by the great earthquake and the nuclear disaster, because I think that the radiation from the Fukushima nuclear plant really affected the school, in 2011.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. So as Paul said that it was very massive earthquake. This is another presentation I made about the earthquake. The magnitude was very big, 8.8, and it attacked at ARI 2, and tsunami attacked not in this area but Tohoku regions, and then a big massive tsunami that was 11 years ago. And then this data is old, but about 15,000 people died and still many people are missing. And then as Paul said, nuclear power plant exploded. And then like this, and then the restoring and then cleaning up activity is very slow, and still human being cannot enter, only robot can enter to still checking. And then no cleaning activities done inside yet, still very high radiation. And radiation spread it. And then this is the map of east part of Japan. So this is epicenter, that is Fukushima, and where the nuclear power plant is located. ARI is up here. So the distance is, if you draw a straight line, it's about 110 kilometers. And this color shows that this is cesium-134 and cesium-137's accumulation in July, 4 months after the explosion. And then red is the heaviest. And then if you go down, this is the color. And then the light brown is the thinnest. So ARI is located here, somewhere between this dark brown and the light brown. So we are not as heavy as these blue regions, but still we are very sensitive. And then we did a lot of things. And yeah, we did a lot of cleaning up activities. So I show you some of the things. Yes. We set up our standard, and then we studied at our Becquerel Center, that is the measuring the radiation by ourselves, and then also open to the community. And we started in 2012. And then so far we measured more than 7,000 items. And then we are keeping records, and then we are showing that records, sharing the records to everybody, so that people can learn and then continue to be interested in this issue. The reality is that now it's almost like nobody is believing that we have a radiation issue except Fukushima. So even though we opened this Becquerel Center, very few people now bring the items to be measured. So that is one problem. We still want to keep teaching educating people about the radiation issue, but people's interest is becoming lower and lower. So yeah, so we are still doing these activities, continuing these activities.
Thank you so much. Yeah, ARI became very important for guiding the way to how to recover the land after the radiation accident, and especially because everyone in AR community lives off of the land. You grow your own food and eat your own food. And you
Right.
said right now you're about 90% self-sufficient, right? Yeah, that's amazing that you can grow your own food and eat it there at the school. So I see we have some questions here from Prakash Namade, I don't know how to pronounce your name, writes, what spiritual activities like discipleship activities did the participants go through? So can you explain a little bit about spiritual activities or worship or things like that that happen as a part of your community?
Well, we are based on the Christianity, but our participants are coming from different religious background. So we have Hindu, we have Muslims, and we have Buddhist, and then some people are non-religion, have no religious background at all. But we have every day we have a worship. We don't call it worship program, but a morning gathering where everybody get together, and then we have a one chairperson every day, and that chairperson can choose how they want to manage the morning gathering. So if they are Christian, they can go following the Christian way of worshiping. The Muslim, they can read the Quran, and Buddhists can choose the Buddhist canon, whatever. And then we all respect that each other's religious activities and belief, and then we listen to it, and then we try to understand each other. But the school activities like opening ceremony and then graduation, any activities, school activities are based, they follow the Christian tradition. And then before eating every meal, we sing a hymn and then we pray. But again, if anybody can pray in a different way, and then the chosen person can choose how they want to pray before the meal, and we respect each other's faith.
So it's a very broad interreligious community, but the school itself is based on Christianity. So it's a Christian environment that welcomes people of all religions as well. Wow, that's amazing. And here we have another very interesting question I see from Dr. Youngmin Pike, who wrote, actually, Youngmin, why don't you say it? You're here, Dr. Pike.
Yeah, I just want to ask, how ARI responded, for the, global like climate issue going on, right now, and because I'm pretty sure that has impacted your direction and your value about it, and also we are really focusing on how that climate change affect our food industry, and also how we're gonna kind of manage our daily life with the food. So I think if you want to say something about it.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. In this area particularly, we experienced it, like the differences of the seasons, and then like today's sudden rain just comes, big amount of water comes, and then sometimes we have tornado, which we never experienced before. So a lot of climate change we are experiencing. But I think when we hear that the experience of the participants coming from especially African regions, I feel like they have more severe and then more acute impact, especially in the agriculture activities. So we have not changed our policy or direction of farming. Rather, we affirm that the sustainable farming, and then the farming that try to strengthen the how can I say, the biodiversity, and then the strengthen that the whole ecosystem is more leads us to the more resilience in the farming and in the human activities as well. So we have to speed up actually how to, our teaching method and then also our organic farming techniques, and then have to promote that how we can, that more effectively transmit this technology to that farming communities. So but at the same time, in this community, in our farm, we also do try to strengthen and intensify that more techniques like a carbon sink. That is that we make more charcoal and then utilize charcoal more, and then try to reduce that the CO2 by introducing more non-electric electric generation, such as more solar panels now we are installing. And then, we try to demonstrate that the one particular classroom to be off-grid, so that we can teach effectively how that the solar energy, how much the electricity can, one size of that the solar panel can generate, and then how we can consume. So more educational, the environment we try to now emphasize to teach about the climate action.
Yeah, just further question. Is there any research you have done, because there are a lot of people are talking about there will be a lot of food industries disaster because of the climate change, and but I do not see that really the scientific data how it's going to affect us and when it's going to come, and how it will change our future life. Is there anything, ARI is, going into that kind of research direction?
We don't do research, but but a lot of researchers come to ARI and then try to see that how organic farming, this practice, organic farming practice itself is a less, the fossil fuel dependency, less fossil fuel dependency, and then how organic farming can contribute to that, the sustainable farming, sustainable living. That kind of things that a lot of researchers come and then study. And actually, recently, one university in the US came and then checked all our carbon accession in this life of ARI, and they tried to compare with the other conventional farming practices. So that kind of research is, we have experienced. But ARI itself, you don't do the research, doesn't do
Okay,
research.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we also have a question from Dr. Miranda. Dr. Miranda, you've written it in the chat. Would you like to unmute and go ahead and say it yourself? If not, I can. I'll read it then. Food security is indeed a very crucial problem now, and conflicts may arise because of this. Please enlighten us how ARI can extend what you have been doing to places like the rural areas in the Philippines. We will be delighted to partner with you or send visiting students. That sounds exciting. So can you please speak to her question?
Yeah, we have many graduates in the Philippines. And actually, the biggest number of graduates is in India, but second biggest is in the Philippines. So over 200 graduates are in the Philippines. But of course, many of them, probably more than half, are retired or passed away. So, but there are some outstanding activities. One, I learned that, I forgot which island, Leyte Island. One graduate is working with that family of that family of those who, their families are working outside the Philippines. So remaining families, and then they have difficulties during the pandemic, especially because many lost jobs, and then families who are depending on the income from that overseas works really suffered. So our graduates make a kind of a group and then work with them, and then strengthen the skill of the food producing together with them, having a common farm, and then teaching that the organic way of producing food, and then that produced food shared by the family members. So in that way, I think the food security is really strengthened, and then the conflicts, and then any worries, the conflict starts when the people have worries, and then the stress, and then the frustrations, and then an anxiety for the future. So when the food is secured, I think those the anxiety really reduced. So that is one activity. And then also some graduates are working among the tribal groups, mountain tribal groups in the Philippines. And then, as you know, that they have also they're facing a problem of poverty, and so the food security is really strengthening their economical situation, and that reduces that conflicts also too among the people, I'm sure. Is that enough?
Thank you. Yeah. When I look at the amazing work of ARI and the teaching and the ministry that goes on there, and really the lifestyle, I realize that it's it's a rural lifestyle. So for students who come from any country, any part of the world, I would think that as long as they come from a rural background, it would be relatively easy for them to adjust. But do you sometimes have students who come from a more urban background and then have to adjust to the rural lifestyle at your school? Or is everyone just from a rural background?
We selected the people who have a rural background, and then yes, and then who are willing to go back to the rural the environment. Of course, there are some people, even among the participants, who are brought up in the city area, but they now work in the rural areas or very remote island. And then they commit for the rural development in those remote areas. So we don't have a problem of among the participants that they had to adjust to the life of ARI. As you say, that people feel very comfortable here when they come from their own countries. This is like my home, they said. So they feel very comfortable. And then, yeah, this lifestyle of sharing work, sharing food, and sharing everything, that is really, for them, is a normal, culture for them, especially in the rural setting. So I think this is one of the reasons why they are very, happy and then become very enthusiastic in learning anything, because they don't feel like this is a very advanced or technologically advanced country or very different country. And if the environment is so different, they feel like they cannot bring the technology to their own community. But here is like their home situation, so they feel like, yes, I can do this, even tomorrow in my home. So that is one strength of this environment. But we have the people from America or from so-called developed areas of the world as volunteers, not as participants, but volunteers. They have a hard time. So they are not accustomed to working on the field, and then many insects and smells, and then but it doesn't take so long time. They start enjoying working on the field, working with the friends, and sweating, and then they feel very satisfied about their the big work is turning into the great food and then great joy of the community. So yeah, at the beginning they have a hard time, but soon they're accustomed to.
Well, that's good that you have a program to welcome volunteers, even who come from the urban background. Yeah. Maybe some of our participants today who are from an urban background will be encouraged.
Yes.
And I see we have a comment in the chat from Dr. Miranda about that as well. She writes, here in Manila, city people are now going back to the rural areas during and after the pandemic. So what you share is very interesting to them. Thank you for that comment. And I see another question about food injustice here from Dr. Pike. Would you like to say that? Go ahead, Dr. Pike. Or I can read it. It's in terms of food justice and peace. Is there anything you want to say to us who live in this highly unequal global society? Food justice and peace is a very important issue. So what can you say to us who live in the highly unequal global society?
I think we have to respect and then admit that the food producer, our lives are depend on the work of the food producers. We really have to recognize and then have to understand and show the respect more. Unless somebody produce food, we cannot live the next day. And a lot of the city people, and then probably highly educated or very highly sophisticated, those who are living in a sophisticated world, cannot believe or don't think so much about who are producing their own food. So that is, I think, a first step to think about the food justice and peace. Here in ARI, the people who work on the land, who work hardest on the land, is always respected the most. And then I'm most spending time most in the office are not so much respected. So, but I like it. I like that standard. I think we all should respect the people who work hardest on the land. And then when we do that, our value really changed, I think. We don't see people by the appearances. We welcome the people who have a very, sweaty shirts and then, suntan, and then the soil is always, in the nail. So those people we really respect, and then we have to have the value, I think. And that's the starting point.
That's a very good point about, how we value people in society and look at them.
Yeah.
Very, very good point.
Like 2 years ago, we have a participant from Indonesia, one small island, and he couldn't speak English at all. He spoke only Indonesians. And then he was over 40, and then he graduated only elementary school. But we admitted him, and then also government gave a student visa to come to Japan. I really appreciated that. And then, but he was respected more than anybody in ARI. And he sometimes speaks very good words, and then everybody just silently listened to him and always wanting to hear from him. And then his words is very philosophical and spiritual, and we all respect him and loved him. So this is kind of thing. And he was a farmer, and then for spending 20 years ago, he learned that how the forestation is important. So he started by himself at the beginning, planting the tree in his community where the deforestation is really rampant. Then gradually his family member joined, and then the community member joined. After 20 years, the forest was born, and then the stream was born. The river was born out of the activity. So one Catholic sister, Japanese Catholic sister, heard that the story, went to see him, and then saw the reality and recommended him to ARI. And we are so blessed to have him. So much. He was our teacher, and we learned so much from him. So this is one of the example how we should change our, values, and then how we look at the people, and probably education itself.
Yeah, thank you so
Mhm.
much. That's really great for us to think about. There's a great lesson for all of us in
Mhm.
that, I think. Um, I want to ask you another question about sustainability
Mhm.
and environmental issues. Um, I'm very interested in the environmental issues. I
Mhm.
teach environmental ethics at the university as well, and I have changed my own lifestyle
Mhm.
in many ways to be environmentally conscious in some ways. When I look at the work of ARI, I'm so impressed
Mhm.
because it's a much more sustainable lifestyle.
Mhm.
But one question I have about it is animal agriculture.
Mhm.
It seems like you could grow a lot more food
Mm.
using plant-based sources of food rather than animal agriculture.
Mm.
Are there some participants who are vegetarian, or
Mm.
have you tried to incorporate more vegetarian or
Mm.
vegan
Mhm.
methods and things to become more sustainable?
Mm.
Because a lot of that's a big question now,
Mhm.
because the meat consumption is going up, and that's so bad for the environment. So how does ARI think about that issue?
Mm. I think you have to see that the size of the farming, and then if the industrial livestock, very industrial, very much industrial way of a livestock keeping is very environmentally destructive, I think, and then it's not so sustainable. Yeah, we have a vegetarian and vegans, and then, but actually they are more from vegans are from a Western culture people, and then the vegetarians are all over the world, because even some developed countries that because of a caste system or the class system, some for example in Hindu, the highly caste people are vegetarians, but vegan is a very new trend, and we had a big argument before. And yeah, but now, not now, but the people who from the developed areas of the world, for them that the protein, the animal protein, is a very important source of the nutrition, and they don't consume big amount like us. And then they don't have a supermarket, they don't waste food, they keep a decent amount of animals like their family members, and then they slaughtered once a week or sometimes once a month. They don't consume like water. I think they keep animals as a very important source of nutrition, and also as an important source of the fertilizer. So in the ARI, we also keep animals for the important source of protein, plus important source of the fertilizer, because their manures become a source of the fertilizer. So we see that the size of our community, and then in order to sustain the life of this number of a community, how much farm land we need. And then in order to cultivate this size of the farmland, how much livestock we need. In that sense, we calculate the size of the animals. I think if we keep that the size, the optimum size of the farmland, the optimum size of the animal based on this calculation, I don't think it's really destructive that the environment, the livestock farming. So we try to see that the animal keeping, livestock keeping in this way. And then actually animals, and then this, the good smell from the barbecue, once in a while after the festival, after the hard work, this really stimulates our, spirit in a good way. So I don't want to ban entirely, because there's a good side of keeping animals as well. So we need to see both sides, but in ARI, this is the situation at this moment.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear that you've really thought about that question. And ARI has really thought through the answers to that. That's very, very helpful. And I have one more question on my list.
Mhm.
I'm wondering what the impact is of ARI
Mhm.
in the neighboring farming community
Mhm.
or in farming in Japan,
Mhm.
because you are a center of education for farming. You teach
Mhm.
sustainable farming, and it's having an impact in developing countries in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America. But how about
Mm.
Japan or
Mm.
in Tochigi Prefecture, in your area? Does it have some impact? What do you think?
Mm. Yeah, thank you very much. I think the around the farmers around here, they are more than 90% are conventional farmers. So they don't see much value of organic farming. And then, so they don't come and then try to learn from us. That is true. But small scale organic farmers who scattered here and there, we have a good network, and we try to learn each other. We visit each other, and we exchange seeds each other, and then we try to promote the sustainable farming together. So this network, although this is still very small and weak, but I think it's gradually increasing, especially in this time of climate justice and climate action is very much emphasized. So in that sense, yes. But for example, Tochigi Prefecture government, Nashiobara Tochigi agricultural section, no, they don't see as a very, because they look at the production yield, and then our yield is not bad. And then we produced a very good amount of organic rice, and we sell at a very high price. So some people come, but they don't see us as a kind of standard way of farming. So that's the point. But now the Japanese government put up that the new green project, Nation Agriculture Project, and they try to increase that organic farming up to 25% of the total agricultural land in Japan, which is a very big dream. But they try to achieve this goal by very much technology, applying the high technology. So, and then they don't see it as, promoting the sustainable community as well. They only see it as a technology and then producing the yield, a certain amount of yield. So they don't see us as a very, instrumental or educational or effective, because we focusing on the community development and then the human development as well. But probably they think that is time consuming or wasting time, or it is separated issue, because they only look at the yield as a goal. So, and then they also want to export the organic products to the overseas. That is their goal, to get the income. So our goal is different. So that's why I think.
Right. Well, that actually makes a lot of sense, because ARI is very much focused on not just food, but food life, right?
Yes.
It's the peace and reconciliation, living together peacefully. Not just having the organic exports. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Are there any other questions? I don't see any. I see, yes, Dr. Miranda, who is having a problem with her audio, by the way, says that here in a comment that actually with the increasing cases of diabetes or even cancer, some are now resorting to organic farming and hog raising in the Philippines, I think she may mean. So, yes. Normally, I think actually now, let me just check the time. We're just about out of time here. So let us all give a big round of applause. A thank you to Mrs. Arakawa. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your opportunity.
Just amazing to hear about the wonderful work that you are doing with ARI. And if President Miranda has audio, I'm sure that she would say some words of thanks as well. I think that she can't connect by audio today. So let me say on behalf of APAMEI, how thankful we are that you have presented for us today and shared these things. It's truly eye-opening for our community to learn about this. And I think it's very instructive for our schools all across Asia, for our students and our faculty. So on behalf of all of APAMEI, thank you very much for presenting for us.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Please visit our website, and then please come visit us.
Yes, the website is ari.org.
Yes,
No.
ARI.org, I think.
There we go,
EDU.
ari/edu.org, and it's in the chat. So yes, please go check out their website. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Youngmin Pike for our announcements.
Okay, so again, thank you very much and for the great lecture. And I think, there was the inspiring thought, within the discussion. And I was very touched and also inspired, by your answer. And so I really appreciate, your presentation and all the time, together with us. And also I want to, be thankful, to all the participants, your faithful participation over here. And I really encourage you, to think about the ARI's work and also food industry and how, that will change, within, our future. So hopefully we will continue. The second thing is, as you know, we are within the series of making peace peacefully. So that will continue, for next week. As you know, and we are gathering together every month, the last Saturday, at the same time, within this Zoom link. So you can come every month, the last Saturday, and within your local time, same time and the same Zoom link. So please remember us, and we will meet you, within the next month. That is it about the announcement. So I think, we're going to close everything with a prayer. So since the bishop is now available, I'm going to offer the prayer, and then, we're going to conclude, our session. Thank you, God, for bringing all of us from all over the world. And we talked about the very important lesson about nature, about food, about peace and justice related to it. You enlightened us with the great wisdom from nature and from farmers and from the creators, we believe. Help us to enlighten us continually, and so that we can be responsible and also environmentally friendly and cautious about what's going on in this society. And please open up our door, for the bright, sustainable life, so that we can truly achieve the peace and justice, within this world, with our hands, with the grateful heart, and with love. Thank you for a great time, and we pray in your great name, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you. Amen.
And
thank you very much, everyone. So, we are very glad, you can make it. And as I said, we will meet you again next month, same time and same link. Thank you very much for your participation. We're going to say bye to each other.
bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
again so much. Thank you, everyone.